was gone, Odenibo was gone, all these people who really had been there with me, and I was bereft. And I think I still am without them.
Okay, can we have one more question?
Okay, see, right before December we were discussing about how writers sometimes, before they write a book, they either write what they really want to say and feel, or they just write with the intention of delivering something to a certain audience. With you, in your books, did you feel like you just, because you, from when you were young, you wanted to write this book, but was it because it's like a self-achievement, or were you trying to hope to teach other generations in your country about what really happened, or were you hoping that would take an international scope for people to realize the human side of what happened in the war?
That's interesting, because I think, I mean, the options you've given me, I want the last option, which is all of the above, right? I do think that, but also I do, maybe I should say something about, I think I have different expectations for somebody who's doing fiction and somebody who's doing sort of non-fiction or journalism. I think that the expectations are different. I also think that, that the requirements are different. And so if I had set out to write a non-fiction account, what we like to call, what do journalist people call it, the sort of objective, they say. Although I quarrel with that word, because I don't think there's any such thing. You know, everybody has a point of view. But if I had wanted to do that, it would have been different. My entire approach would have been different. And also, it's not what I'm interested in doing. I see myself as a storyteller. And so when I set out to write the book, it wasn't, I mean, in some ways it was about me, of course, right? Me trying to figure out this history for myself. But I did know at the same time that I was writing something that I hoped would affect Nigerians, obviously, and you know, everybody else in the world, of course, but Nigerians in particular. I knew I was also doing something for my family, because I remember sometimes just stopping to wonder what my grandfathers would think if they could see. I mean, nobody knows what happens when people die, but you know, you sometimes wonder if they could see, would they approve? I sometimes would think. And I knew that, I also knew that, you know, because I had been fortunate that Purple Hibiscus did well, I knew that this book would sort of be published in different parts of the world and other people would read it and blah, blah, blah. And I guess I also hoped that what it would do was that it would humanize that conflict, that lots of people knew that Biafra had happened and people had images on television of starving children and you know, the bony bodies and the red hair, but nobody actually knew the human story behind it, and I hope that what this book would do. And in some ways I'm actually quite happy that it has done that, because just hearing back from people who would say, oh, growing up I knew about Biafra, but now I sort of have a sense of it, and then the people who tell me, apparently in Scandinavia there were many jokes about Biafra. So apparently Biafra is now used to mean somebody who's very thin. And when I went to Denmark and Sweden, lots of people came up to say, we're so sorry that we've been, after reading your book, we just feel really horrible that we even joked about this. Right? So for me, that's a triumph of what storytelling can do, that it can, in some ways, just give people their human dignity. That very often war, and the way we talk about war when we report war, it takes away human dignity. And I think that when we tell stories, we can give it back to people. So that was my hope.
Well, thank you. I'd like to ask Manji to come up to thank.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask Becky Kilsby, our Career Development Manager, to just tell us about the arrangements for the rest of the book signing and so on. And I'd like to thank Becky most sincerely for organizing this wonderful event for us. I think it's been most enlightening for us to have an author of your caliber here to speak to all of us. I know that I've learned a lot as a often failed author myself. It's really lovely to sit beside somebody of your caliber. Thank you very much for sharing your experience.
Right, everybody. Thank you very much, Chimamanda. That was very, very interesting. And I must say there's a slight element of selfishness in organising the event. because for me it was immensely interesting, and I'm delighted that you joined us here on campus. Such an important part of being at university, I think, is opening your minds to different experiences. And it's a wonderful thing for us to have you visit us and to have the opportunity to read a book I might not have picked up yet. So thank you very much for that. What will happen now, anybody who has bought a book and would like Chimamanda to sign it for you, the way in which we'll do it is that Chimamanda is going to get comfortable and sit down if she wants to, again. Books are on sale outside the room, so if you haven't bought a book and want to do that, you'll need to go outside and pay your money, get your book, and then just come back inside and queue up here. And what I'll do is give you a post-it. If you could just print your name on that post-it, then it'll be easier for Chimamanda to then write to so-and-so inside your book. Okay? So don't all rush in. Make a nice queue here and we'll sort out